Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Great to have you back around these parts. Today is another exciting entry in the saga that is Harry builds a React Native app and finishes it sometime hopefully within a full calendar year. A working title, we'll work on that together. Past episode in this series was us getting up to speed after a 8-month hiatus. The contractor that was working on this project had a sabbatical, namely I just stopped working on it. And this episode is going to continue on our series of videos, and a lot's changed in the last 8 months. One of the biggest things that's changed in the last 8 months is the very exciting and very new feature of React hooks. When we first started building this app way back in September, if you could believe it, React hooks did not yet exist. Well, they do right now, and I figured that it would be a pretty fun use of our time to actually convert our application to use React hooks. So this will be us just refactoring. If I was on the job and actually hired to work on this, I don't know if this would actually be the best use of somebody's time and money. But because this is for fun and we're learning, let's just see what it looks like to convert a working application from plain old React components to using React hooks. Does that sound exciting to you? People seem to get excited about that. So let's just jump into the code and we'll be let's see how far we can get in the time we have together. All right, well, we have our entire system already set up because that saves us a lot of time. You can click in, you can take a picture, all these things, it all works. It's using the latest version of Expo, version 33. We are trendy developers, except we're not using React hooks. So we're gonna get kicked out of the club unless we start moving things over to React hooks. So I have under here miscellaneous, migrate to function components and use hooks. Shall we begin? I'm going to start at the root, which is app.js, which is already a function component. We're already done. I'm kidding. We have so much more to do. Let's go trace to root. We're just going to follow this whole thing around. Let's give us a little bit more space over here. So this is my root application. It using state. This is what is actually managing almost everything for it. Let's convert this into a function component. So let's do export default function root. It takes in no props. That's fine. We are having an initial state, and we're going to say initial state. We're going to say set initial state, and we're going to use our first hook. First, it's so hard to type and code at the same time. So use state, and the initial value is going to be null, which is going to shout out this right here. And then let's see, what else do we have? Let's move over our render function. We're just going to chop this thing up real nice, which is my standard way of doing things. We're going to say return, nope, we're doing this. Just copy and paste that, and we're actually just going to reference the initial state itself. So let's do, this is a little trick I like to do if you use VS Code. If you have a selection, you want to expand that selection, you can actually hit Command D to expand that selection to that same thing, where you have the same cursor at each place, and then you can actually do the same operation in both places, which saves you a lot of time. So let's see here, we have this on data change, which is defined here. It's using some nifty TypeScript things, which doesn't really matter. Let's actually just take all these things and let's actually just move them over to inside the function to get a lay of the land. I haven't saved yet, just to be clear. I'm going to put this up here. Alright, so we have a few functions. We're actually just going to rename this to function. Actually, let's do const. Makes no difference, but it's fun for me. This is an improper definition. Const this equals that. Async like that. Alrighty. So component mount. So this, if we want to replicate that with hooks, we want to use effect. So we're going to go up here, we're going to say use effect, and what we're actually going to do is we only want this to run on initial mount. We don't really care about these things, so actually let me just grab this. I'm going to grab this, put it in here. I'm not even calling clear data right there. Application state key, where is that coming from? Out here. I think I can actually just make this outside. This doesn't actually need, there's nothing about on data change. I don't think there's anything about this that is dependent upon things in the components. So actually I can just move this out because it's not dependent upon any props or state. I can just move this code straight out. And then here's where things get interesting. So this set state is going to now be using set initial state. And because with the use state hook, you can just use primitive values. So in our case, what we don't actually have to set an object. We can actually just directly set the value here, like that. Now here's why things are unhappy. So it's saying that this can only be used within an async function. However, if I were to make this async, React is not going to be happy with me. This is a TypeScript error, but I know what this is. Thankfully, I'm going to save us some time. React doesn't want you to have async functions directly in useEffect hooks because it can lead to errors in your code. So what we're going to actually we're actually going to set this outside. We're going to say, and call this on mount for lack of a better word. Hopefully someone doesn't get mad at me for calling it that, because it's pretty much, it's an anachronism. Is that the right word? Where you say that things shouldn't be done that way. And what I'm actually going to do in here is just call on mount and remove this async. So that's fine. I don't really care when it resolves, just that it happens once. And the other thing is that I only want this to happen one time. So to do that with useEffect is adding an empty array. And if that's an empty array, it says that, so essentially it replicates the same behavior as component did mount. There's a few gotchas, but that's essentially the same. This has to call on data change, which is over here, which again, this is just me saving data in application in async storage, which is similar to local storage. So actually what I can do first is just have it call that directly. Now if I save this, let's see what happens. I'm going to save it. Early lads. Oh, it worked! That was completely live. That's so nice that it works. If I make a new thing, I'm not original with these words. That's still working. So if I say this again. Heck yeah. Well, that's nice. What's actually kind of interesting here is that what I'm seeing, I'm not sure if you're seeing, is the opportunity for a custom hook actually, where you can actually say function use async storage, and what I want this to return is the async storage. I don't really care about setting it, I just want that. So what I'm actually going to do is yoink all this out into here. This is a little 2-for-1 right here, because not only are we refactoring, we're also making a custom hook with real practical use cases. I want this to return. I'm going to call this async storage or stored data. Let's call it stored data. I'm going to call this here. I'm going to call this again. I can set stored data. I'm going to expand this. But sometimes the expansion doesn't work because it copies a partial of a word. And this is actually going to be this right here. Okay, so then what I can do here is actually I can say initial state equals use async storage, right? Because this is how custom hooks work. And on data change, let's actually just roll this into here so it's not as confusing. Where's this on mount? But this is actually being used on data change. On data change is setting new data. So actually what I want to return here is stored data, and I'm going to say set stored data. or actually, yeah, set store data. So this is a local version of state. This is going to be a name conflict if I do this inside of here, which is okay, but on mount, use effects, inside of here, application state key, it's right in there, set stored data. I don't want to return this, I actually want to return this. So I'm going to call this, I'm just going to return that actually, just make things nice and easy for myself. So this is the callback. I'm going to say, we're going to call this state, state, state. I'm going to say on state change, and copy and paste that there. So that should be using that there. Right, and this is just for if I want to actually clear something. So let's save that, see if it's still working. If I go here, and I refresh it, it's doing that there. If I go to the 10th, take another picture, little manual regression testing, save that. Things still look good. Let's actually refactor a little bit more. Application state key is being used just internally to here, so actually we can make this an argument. So we're going to make this an argument to this right there, such that if you pass this, the value there, but otherwise it'll be there. Navigation persistence key. All right, we can keep that as there because that's kind of the debug thing. All right, that was refactoring just one file, but that was actually pretty educational, if I do say so myself. Let's refresh that. Cool, let's commit that, because that's actually some real good progress right there. We are now using a function component with hooks. We made a custom hook as well for that right there. So chore convert root to use hooks. I'm going to say I just want to commit that, not the readme. Sweet. One down. Hopefully this video is not too long. Okay, so what else do we have here? Oh boy, a lot of components. This might be a thing that I have to do a little bit offline. But that gave you enough of an introduction. I mean, let's see what else I can do though. Let's see. Provider. It's coming from data. I'm not going to deal with data right now because I'm going to have to deal with that in a separate one. I'm just going to go from the top to the bottom. From the bottom to the top, now I'm here. From the bottom to the top, now I'm here. Alignment guides. This is also a scary one. Let's skip that for now. Camera. That's a big one. What's another small one that I can do? What's a nice little small one? On create. Let's do create project screen. This is the screen for creating a project, which is this one. Yes. So we want this one actually takes some props, takes the navigation screen props. All right, cool. So let's begin. Export default function, add project screen. First thing I like to do is actually hoist the render function because that does a fair amount of the logic. That kind of structures what else we have to do from there. Delete that. Paste that in there. And it's going to start complaining about things. What's also nice is that we can actually complain about what is not being returned. Navigation object is a static property, which unfortunately there's no easy way to do that with a function component. You have to just directly assign it to it. So let's actually grab that. Oops, like that. That's fine. Then we have states. We can delete that. We'll do all the TypeScript stuff later. Export this. Does not exist on type of add project screen. You're an add project screen. All right. We only have state and create, so let's grab this as well and go right there. Oh, okay. Well, that's nice when you actually get to delete things and it just kind of works. Alrighty, we're going to paste this in here. Again, we're going to call state. I'm just going to make this do set state as a nice little transition. Use state, and by default, I guess it's going to use this thing. Which is neat about use state is it actually lets you do lazy state setting. So if I go to React, use state, and look at the docs for this. Nope, I want the docs actually. Let me go back. Google is much more smarter than I am sometimes. You can do a lazy initialization of states. So the initial state argument is the state used during the initial render. In subsequent renders, it's disregarded. So it lets you actually defer that function, I guess, to when React actually renders it. So actually, I can pass a reference that's being used. This is just giving a plain old function. So actually, I should be able to just take this and pass a reference to that function that React will call, return the initial state. Then here, we're going to call this const on create. And then this is going to do anything that's this.state. It's just going to be state for now. And then props is going to be, this is a project. Is this a project? Oh, look at that. Look at that type inferment. That is sweet. I can just delete that. And this is going to have there be props, which is going to be like that to make things easier to, actually I can just have this be this directly. I'll actually, yeah, there we go. Good. Good. And then I can just find all this dot props and just change it to be props dot. We still have some TypeScript errors. This is what's lovely. So this is on create, which is now just going to be create. There's two of them. I just make this like that. We have this dot set state. Again, I can just call this. This is title. Argument of type is not assignable parameter of type set action. So we actually want, so the big difference with the new set state in the use state hook is that whatever you set on it will actually replace the entire contents of it. Here, I just want to have the old behavior of the component set state where I just do a partial update. So to do that, I'm actually going to get the last value. So I'm going to say project, pass in a function, and now I can actually do project, oops, like that, to update it. And then this is going to be parens to say that I actually want to return that expression. Cool. Nothing is yelling at me anymore. TypeScript is happy. TypeScript makes refactoring a lot easier, as you can probably tell. So let me open this back up. Let me save this, refresh this, and it's working. It work? It work. Isn't that cool? Well, that's so much fun. Coding together. And this I don't actually need anymore because it's never read. Great. Hooks is successfully making things smaller for me. So let's actually say this. Chore, convert, create project screen. All right, I'm going to do one more together because I do think there's value in that. But I think that we should actually tackle a difficult one because that is something that you'll find the most value from. Project screen, I'm not too worried about that. I'll just take some time to do. Doesn't even use, it's just using props. This should actually take no time at all. This is the project screen, the list of projects. This should actually take no time at all. Now that we're actually used to things, that's a fun little error that I'll deal with later that already exists. So I'm just going to say export default function project screen. Props is navigation screen props that we've had before. This is where things get nice and redundant. It just becomes chores. Here, I want to grab this off of this as well, just like that. Beautiful. This render, again, I want to do the same thing. Grab that entire body. Then I can delete all the innards like that. And this is just going to return all that. And then we have this dot props. It's just going to be, any other props? Nope. So I can actually just say navigation and then delete that. And that's it. Same error as I had before, so I'm not going to worry about it. This is the project screen, so this is going to be this screen, because it's looking like calendar lists. Let's save that. Nice. It gets easier with more practice. Sure, convert project screen. Oops, just want this one. Good. Alrighty, what else do we want to do? What else do we want to do? This one has some state. Let's do the camera screen. The camera screen. Or the alignment guides. Which one's longer? Alignment guide is 188. Camera screen is, yeah, let's do a camera screen. The hardest for last, which is always the best thing to do because that's when you're most tired and that's when things always go wrong. Alright, let's get started. Export default function. Camera screen. The props is again the same thing. Navigation screen props. There we are. Oh, doggy. Delete that. Don't need that anymore. Alright, so what I'm going to do is a different strategy, which is probably a bad idea, but actually no, this is definitely a bad idea. Let's take my render as usual because that helps inform what things I've forgotten. Oh, this could definitely be broken up into small little functions. And then probably, ooh. Do you smell optimizations? I smell optimizations. Ooh, it's going to be fun to optimize this thing. We're grabbing all of that. Let's just do this just to reduce some errors. And return all that fun things. This state, oh boy. That render function is long, man. Alright, let's grab all this stuff now and put it in line so I don't have to keep scrolling all the way down every time. Grab all that, and now we can delete it. Oh boy, my heart is erasing. We'll paste all that. More errors. Alright, so we have here. We're going to grab these and yoink them to the top because that seems to be the thing that will be used by other things in the file. Alrighty, my state looks like this. So let's actually, oh man, let's say that we have, let's see if this works. Use state is an object, which is going to be state, to say what the type is. This is going to be, the first argument is going to be destructured, and then we're going to call the second one set states. And this, of course, here we go. Here's my default state. Thank goodness. That's what I was looking for. All right, cool. Grab that, and we're going to set that in, inside of there. And then it's not yelling at me anymore. I wonder, though, if I remove this, does it know that these... oh, it does. Look at that. Let me see this, actually. If I call this state, does it know that this is my state object? No, just knows that that's the thing. So actually what I want to do... So this is a thing to note. So useState with TypeScript can do type inferment. However, it can also just give you a shape object. I actually want to be very explicit and say that this should be this interface that I set up here. So when I actually just put this and I hover over here, I'm saying what TypeScript is showing me is that it's saying, oh, the initial state looks like this. This is what I'm saying your interface should be. It's inferring that for me. That I don't want that to be the case. I want that to actually be my state interface that I defined here. So when I hover over this, that's the state. So now when I destructure it, I can be assured that these things are all being correctly taken from here. Cool. Props, again, kind of just do a blanket, this.props, yep, all these things. I'm just going to call it props on the right. Yep, things should be changed a little bit there. Cool. Camera is an instance ref. We're going to comment that out. We'll come back to this. Oh, man. This.set state. I'm going to call this set state plain. And what I'm actually going to do is make a helper function for myself just to reduce the time for doing this. I'm going to do this, which is arg, and I'm going to say set state plane current state, and then we're just going to do current state arg. So essentially what I've done here is I made a little wrapper for myself. What is this? This is going to be states. I made a little wrapper for so I renamed this set state plane, and I've made this little function here. And what this is going to take in, so let me show an example. So this here, this dot set state. This is now going to be calling this set state. I want this to actually be partial. I want this to be partial of this. And that makes that save. All right, I have so many things to explain right now. So this is going to use this new function I made here, which is going to pass in part of my state object. And to replicate the old set state behavior, I made this wrapper, which will take in this argument, which is going to be an object. And then it's going to call the hook set state plane, which is then going to take the previous value using the function version of the hook set state, copy it over, and copy over the pass-in function to essentially replicate the old set state behavior, which is going to save me a lot of time refactoring down below. And I can, if I really care, I can change it later. But for now, I'm just doing this raw refactor. It's going to save me a lot of time here. Partial, I have to add. So if I put it back, what TypeScript is telling me here is that argument of type is not assignable to parameter of type state. So for example, the interface state is saying that you need to have a capturing photo property on there, which to fulfill the contract of interface, of the state interface, I would need to have that as well. So if I did capturing photo, state capturing, what is it? What is the default value state? We'll do like that. Like that. It's still going to yell at me. Oops. Capturing photo. Capturing photo. I'm going to say true. Well, I guess that's all that it needed. But I don't want to have to include that. All I wanted to do is say this function can take in parts of the full interface of state. And that's what this partial utility, type utility does. It says, well, there it is. It makes all properties in T optional. So this is an argument where I can pass in a type. So essentially what it does is it transforms this and essentially adds a question mark after all of them so that when I pass arguments to it, TypeScript will say, okay, that's fine. I know that you're not going to be too bad with it. We have componented mount, which again, if I wanted to refactor that, this is async. So actually, we're going to say const on mount equals async, like that. If one could spell, it's always a good idea. This, so actually, I can replace all these references now to my new set state. Cool. And this I want to call just once. So I'm going to say use effect on mount, and again I'm going to add this there. Oh boy. So this is take photo const this camera. We're going to get back to const redo photo, const save photo. This state, man, I'm doing both. This can just be preview. Do I do this anywhere else? States. What I'm actually going to do, I'm going to change this back to state because I think that's going to be easier to read and maintain. This dot state, I'm going to change them all to state. All these errors. TypeScript does make things easier to just kind of hunt them down. This is also going to be const. I knew this was going to be a hard one. All right, cool. So things are looking a little bit better. Let's start up with the red. if you want to follow along, I'm trying to get all these red lines on the right side here gone, because then TypeScript will say, hey, you've kind of fulfilled everything that I know is to be true. So the first one here is this camera. Let me get back to that again. I don't know where I'm setting this camera. Redo photo. It's just going to be calling redo photo directly, which is fine. Redo photo again. Cool. What else do we have in here? This save camera settings. Split this because there's no instances. This save camera settings. Oh boy. Switch UI state. Did you mean state? Cannot find name UI state. Yes, I think this is state dot. Cool. Okay, this dot camera ref. We're gonna get back to it again. Capturing photo. We're gonna call this again state capturing photo. But I wonder if I'm gonna introduce some subtle bugs here. We shall find out. We shall find out. This take photo. Well, actually, find anything that's this dot. Essentially, I want to delete. What's this? This dot camera. I'm still not going to touch right yet. Source state dot previews. State dot preview. Cool. All right. Let's talk about ref, and let's use a new React hook for that. The hook that we're going to use is useRef, surprisingly. This lets you have a reference to something. So I'm going to say camera equals useRef, and by default it's going to be empty, but we actually want it to be a camera type. All right, good so far. So this I'm going to initially use down here, which I think I can just pass in here. No. How do I do this? Use ref. Use ref input L, ref input L. Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought I could do. So ref like that. Oh, I remember this right. Yeah, I had an issue with this. So camera, I can actually do camera dot current like that, just to silence it. And here I'm gonna do the same thing as well. Camera dot current, because useRef returns you an object with a camera with a current property that points to the current value. So this dot camera is actually going to be now this dot camera dot current. Okay, that's all the error's gone. Let's save that. Load that. Oh man, look at that. Oh, that is cool. That is lovely. Things are working. Let's save this. Chore camera screen to books, exclamation mark. And I'll take care of doing the rest in my own time, which is to then checkmark this when we're done. Oh, that feels so good. Okay, that was a long video, but hopefully you learned a lot watching me convert all of these components to function components and then using hooks. There's more to go, but those are just going to be chores that I'll just do in my own free time and not bore you with. I'm curious to hear what you learned about this. Did you learn anything during this process? Because I'd love to hear about that. Things that you wish me to elaborate on that maybe I glossed over too fast. If this was a live stream, you could ask me questions real time and I could delve deeper, but because I'm just talking to a camera in a room by myself, I have to wait for the comments to let me know what to change. Thank you so much for watching. If you are not already a subscriber, become a subscriber down below. And we'll see you again in a video next week while we still are making this React Native app. Till then, I'll see you and bye-bye.